I think he's also a prisoner of the model, and I think the Israelis are dangerous.
We have a very special guest with us. Catherine Austin Fitts is here. She's an American investment banker who served as managing director of Dillon Read and Company and as the United States Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development in the George H.W. Bush administration. That's the first George Bush. I remember that George W. Bush. A lot of people say Israel got him pushed out. She co-authored a report in 2017 alleging that $21 trillion in unauthorized spending by the U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development over a 17-year period. Now, of course, that's all crazy talk. That didn't happen. She's making it up. The government takes good care, is a good steward of your money, and they would never do something that is just... Anyway, welcome to the show, Catherine Austin Fitts.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's a pleasure to be on.
So before we get into... I'm going to bury the lead, and we're not going to talk about that right away. I wanted to... Because this just broke today, and I wanted to just get your opinion, since you worked in the George Herbert Walker Bush administration, and of course everybody's following what's happening with Israel, Palestine, and Trump and Netanyahu. So we know that, well, it says Trump cuts ties with Netanyahu over manipulation concerns. And this comes from Israeli Army radio, says that the United States president has cut off direct contact with Benjamin Netanyahu amid growing bilateral concerns. Now, we know he fired Waltz because Waltz was using a secret Israeli app they were right in his office, right from the Oval Office. Waltz supposed to be advising the president on national security, and there he is on a Signal app that's used secretly. Was a secret app just for the Israeli intelligence, and so he was a spy inside so he got rid of him, and I'm sure that upset him. U.S. President Donald Trump has decided to cut off direct contact with Israeli Prime Minister Yaner Kozin, a correspondent for Israeli Army Radio, said in a post on his Twitter account that Trump made the decision after close associates told Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer that the president believes that Netanyahu is manipulating him. Huh. Kid, that is some kind of crazy talk.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked to find out that gambling is going on in this establishment.
Yeah. The next thing you're going to tell me is that the vaccine isn't safe and effective. An Israeli official added that Dermer's tone during recent discussions with senior Republican figures about what Trump should do was seen as arrogant and unhelpful. The official said that people around Trump told him Netanyahu was manipulating him. There is nothing Trump hates more than being portrayed as a fool or someone being played. That's why he decided to cut contact with Netanyahu, the official said. Kozin pointed to the Israeli government's failure to present a concrete plan and timeline regarding Iran and Yemen's Houthis as a source of the worsening U.S.-Israeli relationship. The Army radio correspondent also highlighted that the Netanyahu government has failed to offer a concrete proposal on Gaza. Yeah, because their proposal, they don't have... We all know what their actual goals are. Their goals is to ethnically cleanse Gaza and the West Bank and take it over. That's been and they used that's why they're not getting the hostages out, which is why the people in Israel are protesting Netanyahu, because they know he doesn't want the hostage out, because they know his real plan. So anyway, we've talked about this a lot. I just wanted to get your take on this. Do you think this is... It seems like recently Donald Trump has been sticking the thumb in the eye of Netanyahu in Israel, especially with how he's approaching Yemen now. He's got to deal with Yemen, where he stopped bombing Yemen if Yemen doesn't bomb our ships, and he doesn't care if they bomb Israel's ships anymore. What's your take on this?
So I want to see three things from a president who's really serious about this. The first is he makes AIPAC register as a foreign lobby.
Okay.
Second, he requires disclosure by any government official or member of Congress as to whether they have dual citizen passport or citizenship in any other country, Israel included. And third, we stop funding the genocide in Gaza. So Netanyahu can only do what he's doing because we're funding it.
That's 100%. I mean, Israel, it drives me crazy, many things, but one of them is that they have free healthcare, or they have Medicare for all in Israel, and we don't.
Right.
And we're supplying them all their armaments, and we're supplying, which is way worse of a thing. But so you don't, so you're not sure Trump's real about this.
If you're going to fund a genocide and then play this little theater, to me, it's only theater. So when I worked in Washington, I used to I didn't own a TV when I got there, and somebody said you can't work in the administration without a TV. You have to watch the Sunday shows. And so because of the job I had, I was deeply tracking the whole budget, not just the mortgage and housing budget. So I'd be working all week long on the budget, and I'd be looking at where the money was going and how they were whacking up the money. And then I would watch the Sunday shows, and they'd go yakety, yakety, yak. And it was two parallel universes. And the real deal was what was happening with the money. And then the talk was just talk. So if Trump is providing massive amounts of money to Israel so Netanyahu can do everything he's doing while he's saying that he's not speaking to him, I don't think Netanyahu cares whether he speaks to him or not. He cares that he funds him. So
you think that so you're saying this might just be theater, and I would take that to mean that Trump's base, which I meet MAGA every week. I go out and I do comedy all over the country. And even at the Rescue the Republic event that I was at, I met a lot of MAGA. They are not, the ones I know, the ones who watch this show and come see me, they are not on board with his stance with Israel at all.
Right. And so what I want a sovereign country. And I want a sovereign country that enforces the Constitution. And you can't be a sovereign country if a significant number of your cabinet or your Congress are dual citizen passport, have dual citizenship and have mixed loyalties or sign, what a lot of congressmen tell us is they have to sign pledges to AIPAC. So I think we have a serious multiple personality disorder in the government. And I want to see that aired and changed. And the theater and the drama, I don't know what's happening between Trump and Netanyahu. It wouldn't surprise me if Trump was irritated that Netanyahu is doing many different things to make Trump look like a fool. Certainly that would irritate me if I was the president. But as far as I'm concerned, this is just theater if you're not going to change the fundamental structural problem.
Do you have a guess on how a guy like Waltz, who's an obvious Israeli mole, ends up inside Trump's campaign? I mean, cabinet.
Waltz was not someone I ever followed or know, so I don't know how he ended up there. But I think you have a lot of major donors and people in and around Trump and who've been active in the campaign who would have recommended or vetted him, and so there's a process by which he gets recommended. And then you go in and of course, what happens is immediately you're tested. So Waltz, I don't have a good feel for.
So do you think Trump's subservience to Israel is based just because of the donors? Because of, the widow Adelson gave him $100 million and all the is it that, or is it he's afraid of AIPAC, losing the Congress? Because if he can't do anything, if the Congress won't go along with them, or he can't do a lot of things, put it that way. And so is he afraid that AIPAC will turn the Congress against him? Just like, let me just stop it there.
Okay. So I think Trump, if you're the president, you're subject to tremendous, you're in a box, and the box is subject to tremendous financial dependencies on the central bankers and a whole series of private players. And I'd love to tell you some stories to help you understand, but you're in that box and you don't have complete control. The last president who thought he had control was John Kennedy, and we see what happened there. So you're trying to operate within a box, and you're in the middle, if you're Trump, of having to change fundamentally the model. So at the beginning of the administration, Secretary Rubio said, we tried to be a unipolar model, and now we're going to have to shift to a multipolar model. So you are forced by economics to change the fundamental nature of the dollar system. At the same time, you are subject to all sorts of private interests and donors, particularly the central bankers who want you to do certain things. So you don't have complete latitude to do whatever you want. And the reality is the dollar system has traditionally depended on the Israeli networks for a whole lot of different operations, particularly in the Middle East. So you don't want to just throw them overboard if you're dependent on them for all sorts of other things. So I don't think it's just the major donors. I think he's also a prisoner of the model. And I think the Israelis are dangerous. I think if I know people who are very concerned if they just do what they want in any of these positions, they or someone in their family can end up dead. So I'll give you an example. I have an online book called Dylan Reed and the Aristocracy of Stock Profits. I've tried to publish it in hard copy 3 times. The third time I tried, each time I ran into terrible difficulties. The third time I tried, I got a series of very subtle messages, and my interpretation of them was, if you publish this in hard copy, we will kill someone in your family. And so I backed off, and I've never, it's available online. It's not suppressed, but I've never published it in a hard copy. And I'm just waiting till all the people who might, give that order and have the ability to give that order pass on, and then I'll publish it in hard copy. But it's dangerous.
What is it? What is it about that book that's so threatening?
Well, when I tried to do it the third time, I didn't think it was that threatening. But I think there was a series of people who didn't want their dirty laundry looked at, and they just thought hard copy would bring more attention to it. It's a book about. It's basically designed as a case study for the equivalent of a business school class to help you understand the intersection between narcotics trafficking and illegal monies in Wall Street and Washington. And the reality, Jimmy, is our economy is deeply dependent on narcotics trafficking and money laundering. We're the global leader in money laundering. And, and we've been very insistent that we're, our business model is something other than organized crime and war, but it's not. We're deeply financially dependent on organized crime and war. And so it's designed to show you how that machinery works and how they proceed to use government credit and money to kind of engineer the system and make lots of things look economic, turn lots of people into billionaire with government money and make it look like they're making money in the private market when it's really rigged from either the central bank or government.
All right, be honest. Have you noticed yourself moving slower, avoiding stairs, feeling stiff in the morning? If you know what I mean. If so, pay attention. The truth is, mobility doesn't just vanish overnight. It's slow decline. It's a slow decline. And before you know it, you're the guy making weird noises every time you get off the couch. But by the time you pay those grunts enough attention, it can feel too late. But it doesn't have to be. That's where Juvent comes in. This isn't some gimmick or magic pill. It's a clinically proven device that uses safe, low-impact micro vibrations to strengthen your bones, improve your circulation, and keep your joints working the way they're supposed to. Notice I said micro vibrations. This isn't like those other shake plates on the market, which, by the way, can be extremely dangerous. I stand by my Juvent, and I stand on my Juvent for at least 20 minutes a day. I use it. I was using it before they were an advertiser on the show. It was recommended to me by Pierre Corey because it creates stem cells. It helps your joints, your bones. I have a bone problem. And it's made a noticeable difference in how I feel. It's like giving your body a tune-up before it completely breaks down. Athletes, doctors, even NASA use this thing. And it's good enough. It's good enough for astronauts. It's good enough for me, especially lady astronauts. With a 10-year limited warranty, financing options, and the ability to use FSA funds, it's never been easier. So don't wait until your knees sound like a bowl of Rice Krispies. Get a Juvent today. Go to juvent.com/door and start moving like you're supposed to. That's JUVENT.com/DORE. Use the code DOOR for $300 off at checkout. Your joints will thank you. Trust me. Come see us live in Los Angeles, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, Ottawa, Glasgow, Manchester, Belfast, Dublin, London, Liverpool, Birmingham, Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.